Is Jon Moxley the greatest member of the Shield ever? It's becoming harder and harder to answer this question, man. Don't get me wrong, Roman Reigns, his 1,300-day reign as world champion is one of the greatest title runs I've ever seen. And Seth Rollins, his ability to reinvent his character and being consistently mentioned as one of the best wrestlers in the world, it's legendary stuff. But Jon Moxley, he'll be known for his accomplishments in and outside of WWE. Ever since leaving WWE in 2019, Jon Moxley has been on a major role. His work in AEW and New Japan Pro Wrestling has solidified his status as one of the best professional wrestlers ever. It's not easy surviving life after leaving WWE, especially back in 2019, but Jon Moxley thrived. So today, let's see how Jon Moxley is the unsung hero of pro wrestling. After the Shield broke up in 2014, many of us expected that all three members of the group would be super over as single stars amongst the fans. All three had the charisma and the potential to be the best wrestler in all of WWE. It was a no-brainer that Seth was going to be popular amongst the fans as he was the better in-ring worker compared to both Moxley and Reigns. Roman was positioned as the next John Cena of the company for years to come. However, Roman had to suffer the wrath of the hardcore WWE fanbase. However, it was actually Jon Moxley, or Dean Ambrose in this instance, who became a fan favourite in a short amount of time. This unhinged and lunatic babyface gimmick worked tremendously well for Dean Ambrose, and his feud with Rollins in 2014 elevated both stars. As time went by, Dean Ambrose's popularity grew to the point where fans preferred him over Roman Reigns every single time. It was clear that Dean Ambrose was getting the kind of reactions WWE was hoping for Roman Reigns. Despite getting booed out of the building most of the time, Reigns was booked strong every single week. Seth was the first out of the three to win a world title in the company. Dean, on the other hand, wasn't getting the kind of push he should have got after the Shield had broken up. Dean Ambrose was the first guy out of the Shield to win a singles championship, however. He won the US title in 2013 and he held it for a staggering 351 days. A reign that was long but isn't memorable at all. Much has to do with the fact that Dean Ambrose rarely defended the US title. This was enough to tell us that the company didn't really take Dean Ambrose as a single star that seriously. Ambrose got over on his own. Even when he was with the Shield members, the crowd adored him mainly because he stood out with his performances and promos. WWE also had this habit of booking babyfaces to lose matches and feuds back in the day. While he was so over with the fans, Dean Ambrose was losing feuds to the likes of Seth Rollins and the late Bray Wyatt. This usually kills all the momentum of a hot superstar, but luckily for Ambrose, things began to change in 2016. He won the Intercontinental title and had a great feud with Kevin Owens. He would also go on to have a decent feud with Chris Jericho. Things got sweet for Dean Ambrose when he won the Money in the Bank ladder match that year and cashed in on Seth Rollins the same night he won it. Ambrose would go on to defeat Rollins and Reigns in a triple threat match at the Battleground pay-per-view, and this was the only Shield triple threat match we have ever got. After feuding with Dolph Ziggler, Ambrose dropped the title to AJ Styles that year. Things should have gone up for Ambrose after that, but sadly, they didn't. With the kind of on and off booking Dean Ambrose was getting, it's easy to get frustrated with the management. You could begin to see his mannerisms and body language that he didn't want to be in WWE anymore. That proved true when he told WWE in early 2019 that he would not be renewing his contract after WrestleMania 35. Dean Ambrose was done with WWE. He was not going to suffer more of Vince's ugly booking and he decided to bet on himself. Things got immediately better the moment he left the company. At the time, it was hard for a superstar to make a name for himself in the industry after leaving WWE. Moxley's career ever since leaving WWE is proof that life certainly exists outside the four walls of World Wrestling Entertainment. AEW came into existence in 2019 and the hype for it was unreal. Stars like Chris Jericho, Kenny Omega, Pac, the Young Bucks, they were all a part of it, and it seemed like the company would be giving WWE a tough time. At the end of the company's first pay-per-view, Double or Nothing, Moxley made his debut and attacked both Jericho and Kenny Omega. The crowd lost its mind and it was clear that Jon Moxley was destined to be a big star for this new promotion. After winning the AEW World Championship from Jericho, Moxley went on to have feuds against the likes of Omega, Eddie Kingston, the late Mr. Brody Lee. By the way things were going on, many felt that Moxley was Tony Khan's most protected wrestler as he rarely suffered a loss. By the time we got to 2022, Moxley teamed up with Bryan Danielson, Wheeler Yuta and Claudio Castagnoli to form the Blackpool Combat Club, and the group has been on a roll ever since. Moxley's in-ring work has been so different in comparison to what he was doing in WWE. His work as Dean Ambrose doesn't even come close to what he was doing now in AEW and New Japan Pro Wrestling. Speaking of New Japan Pro Wrestling, Moxley has made his presence known in the Japanese promotion ever since 2019. Moxley has held the IWGP United States Heavyweight Championship on 2 occasions and has put on great matches against the likes of Shingo Takagi, Tomohiro Ishii and Minoru Suzuki. Moxley recently defeated Tetsuya Naito at Windy City Riot to win the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. New Japan have needed a guy to represent the company, especially with this stateside expansion in mind. They've lost major stars like Okada, Ospreay and Jay White to AEW. They took a leaf out of AEW's book. They relied on Jon Moxley for this job. With this, he became the first wrestler to win the WWE, AEW and IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. Despite all of these accomplishments, the reason why Moxley is the unsung hero of pro wrestling is probably more so because of what he means to AEW. AEW has seen a lot of hard times in the past couple years. Most of them have to do with incidents that occurred between CM Punk and the Elite. AEW needed someone to be at the top and lead the entire roster. Moxley spoke out about backstage drama and sent a rallying cry that everybody should just stay focused and pay attention to the wrestling and doing the best for AEW. Moxley was the guy for the job. He held the AEW World title during Punk and the Elite's absence. When Punk got fired in 2023 after the incident with Jack Perry, AEW needed to make a statement that the company could thrive without its biggest draw by putting on a great show in the form of All Out. Who was in the main event of this show? Yeah, it was Jon Moxley. Moxley's commitment to AEW and Tony Khan has earned him the respect of his colleague, and the AEW fans consider him to be one of the faces of the company. Do you think Jon Moxley is an unsung hero of pro wrestling? Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments and hit the like button if you enjoyed this video. And talking about faces of the company, tune in to see my video that's on screen right now about Will Ospreay and how he's going to take AEW to new heights.